Hey everyone, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home, and I just got finished watching Tenet on 4K, so I'm going to do a 4K review here while it's fresh in my mind. I'm talking about I literally shut this movie off about 10 minutes ago, so we'll talk about the visuals, the audio, which is really interesting. I'll talk a little bit about the movie itself, and then special features and whether I think this is worth picking up. So like I said, 10 minutes ago I shut off Tenet, and I'm still processing things, and I think this is the type of movie you really need to watch 2, 3, maybe 4 times. This is a movie that needs multiple viewings to fully understand. As the movie goes on, I started to connect some more dots. It started to make more sense, but you definitely miss things in the first half.
They had us the first half, I'm not gonna lie.
As you start to pick up that knowledge in the second half, that would be useful as you go watch again. So I watched this with my wife, and let me tell you, she was just like, basically, what the hell just happened? And I'm kind of in the same boat. When they say this is a groundbreaking movie, they're not wrong. I've never seen a movie like this. Some of the visuals in this movie are completely revolutionary. It is massive. It's epic. There's a lot going on. And that's why it requires a few viewings, because the first time through, you're kind of just in awe of everything that's happening. And that makes it hard to focus on some of the story elements, I think. So a second or third watch is definitely needed. But it's interesting. If you like Christopher Nolan's stuff, this is like literally if he took Interstellar and Inception and Memento and put those 3 into a soup, and then poof, out came Tenet. It's like he took Memento. If you don't know Memento, that's a movie that's basically like played in reverse. And he plays with timelines a lot that we know from Interstellar. And he basically took this movie and he said, how many different timelines can I play with that are literally happening simultaneously? There are scenes in here where there are 3 or 4 different timelines happening in the same moment of the movie. So man, for a guy who likes to play with time and futurism and physics, because of his brother who's this huge physics geek and has helped write some of the scripts for these movies. This one was actually written and directed by Christopher Nolan. Jonathan Nolan's not on here, but man, what a trip that was. That's gonna need a second viewing. And I do want to give a real quick shout out John David Washington. Denzel Washington is my hands down favorite actor. John David Washington, bright future, and a great cast throughout the rest of this movie, but man, he has a bright future. So now let's talk about the technical stuff and the video on this 4K release. So Tenet was shot with a whole bunch of different cameras. It was shot with some Imax cameras, many different aspect ratios, but at the end of the day, what we got was a 65 millimeter negative is what Christopher Nolan and his film team produced as their final negative. So that is fairly high resolution stuff. And then going to a 4K disc, obviously things get downscaled from 65 millimeter, but there's a lot of data there, and it has a very quality, crisp feel to it, although it is still filmic. It has just enough grain, like these are modern cameras, so it's nothing like what you've seen on some older movies mastered to 4K, but it has a really nice look and feel. It feels like a Christopher Nolan movie, which is great. He still shoots things on film, and he produces these 65 millimeter negative for this release, and it really does look great. The highlights of this are definitely the IMAX sequences, and on this disc, it does shift aspect ratios. So the IMAX sequences are shown on your TV in full screen, and then the rest of the sequences have black bars on them. Those were not shot with IMAX cameras. Those are not IMAX sequences. So you've seen that in other movies that he's done. Interstellar had those, I believe. I have to double check on that one, but I know The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises had those IMAX sequences, and you'll see aspect ratio shift from full screen back to black bars, back to full screen, all within the same scene. So the IMAX sequences are the clear standout. Those IMAX sequences are reference quality stuff, look incredible, and are really, I love that full screen IMAX feel. There's just nothing quite like a big 4K screen filled to the max with this beautiful IMAX sequence. And it makes a lot of sense why Christopher Nolan was so dead set on people seeing this in theaters in IMAX. I really wish I could have gone and done that myself. Never got the chance. But this was a pretty good at-home experience. One thing that did bug me early on, and it stopped happening later in the movie, they were shifting aspect ratios really, really quickly in a few scenes. And that kind of throws your eyes off for a second. I'd prefer there to be, 20, 30 seconds of an IMAX scene, then back to the regular aspect ratio. And there were a few sequences in the beginning of the movie towards in the first half, definitely, that were like shift big, shift small, shift big, shift small, like within 1 to 2 seconds. And that kind of just throws you for a loop. It throws you off. It kind of takes you out of it for a second. But other than that, the aspect ratio shifting, especially as you get used to it, wasn't that big an issue. So now on to the audio, and this is the big thing a lot of people were wondering about for this release because of the audio problems that it had theatrically. A lot of people who saw this movie in theaters had a hard time picking up the dialogue, and a lot of critics also said the same thing. So it was a pretty widespread problem that dialogue was just not well mixed. And this is not unique to Tenet because we had the same issues in Dunkirk. We had the same issues in Dark Knight Rises, especially with Bane and his mask. And we have those issues even in Interstellar, where sometimes what Christopher Nolan's doing and what his scores, everything that's going on in the movie, they get so big that the dialogue just gets drowned out. And it's got to be purposeful at this point. He's got to do that on purpose because otherwise you need to adjust that dialogue to a higher level and have a better sound mix. But he just seems against it. And I don't know if that's because he has this, he has this idea in his head for his movies of you need to watch this on an IMAX screen with 75 speakers in the theater and, have that highest quality experience. And I don't know because I didn't get to experience that. But I can say that I don't have shoddy audio equipment here. I have speakers from SVS Sound, a subwoofer from SVS, a Denon receiver. It's not $10,000 equipment, but it's certainly better than what most people probably have in their homes. And I had an issue with the dialogue for sure. A lot of the dialogue I could not make out, especially in the first half. It seemed better in the second half of the movie, which was really strange. And I don't know if that's because I was just picking up on it better. I was adjusting to it. Maybe I understood what was being said better, so it came out a little more clear. But there were a lot of moments in the first half of the movie that I just missed. There were entire lines of dialogue, entire conversations that just sounded like mumbles that I could not make out. I can't imagine watching this movie, honestly, with a sound bar or with like sound just off the TV because I feel like the dialogue would just be completely lost without at least a center channel and a couple surrounds being able to split that sound out. On a sound bar, I don't know how you'd make out half of the stuff that was being said. So that's a real issue, and it is still very apparent here. Now, the track itself, not an Atmos track, nothing special. It's DTS HD 5.1. That's, again, I think that's personal choice by Christopher Nolan. Now, the rest of the track is incredible, and I mean, it is loud as hell. I had to turn down my receiver from usual, settings that I keep it on. It was incredibly loud. It was Wake Your Neighbors loud. The bass physically shook the chairs that I sit in, which are sitting on a rug. Like, I'm not even sitting right on the hardwood floor where I'd feel that vibration so much. They're on a rug, and at least 2 times throughout the movie, the bass physically shook my chairs, and I could feel it come up underneath me. So that's one area where this definitely excels. And of course, all the sound effects and everything that's going on in this movie and the epic scenes with the airplane and the battle scene at the end and all the stuff, helicopters flying overhead, like, it sounds great. It's just a shame that the dialogue is so hard to make out. So now packaging here, what I've got is the standard slipcover release. Got some artwork here on the front. On the inside, same artwork. And then opening this up, it does come with a digital code, which should redeem in 4K per Warner Brothers. And then you've got a 3-disc set, so your Blu-ray and your 4K movies. Now, the issue is the 4K disc is stacked, and I hate that. So let me just pop this out without doing any damage to it. But the 4K disc here is stacked on top of the special features disc when you get it. Now, personally, I'm going to move that special features disc over to underneath the Blu-ray and make sure that 4K disc is nice and safe and not getting scratched by being stacked on top of another disc. So I'm a little disappointed in that. I'd like to just see at least a tray or something to hold those 3 discs a little bit better, especially for kind of what I'd consider maybe one of Warner Brothers' biggest releases of the year, to be honest. Now, the special features are entirely on the Blu-ray. You've got about an hour of special features, and they're all kind of in this set called Looking at the World in a New Way, the Making of Tenet. It goes into casting, the continuity of the movie, which is really interesting, difficult to do for a movie like this. Sets, cinematography, locations, costumes, music, just how they created this epic film. So not a ton of special features, but you do get about an hour of behind the scenes. Personally, for a movie like this, I feel like there are hours, if not days, of behind the scenes stuff that you could look at, and maybe some of that will be available, say on YouTube or on other free formats, but you get sort of short snippets of that here. So just a little bit of special features there on the Blu-ray disc. So overall, this is a really tough release to grade because the visuals are great. The visuals are 4.5, 5 out of 5. Minor complaints on the way that the Imax switched so quickly in some sequences, but really 65mm negative, you're not going to get much softness. It's very detailed. The HDR coloring is definitely subdued. I would say the HDR is like not overpowering, but again, that's a stylistic choice by the director. That's not something against the movie itself. So you're not getting super bright colors, but they look nice. And then the audio, that mix is, again, stylistic choice by the director, Christopher Nolan, that the dialogue is mixed in this way. And that's done by his sound editing and sound mixing teams. So it's a stylistic choice. If you take that out of it, the audio mix is really good. But if you're just grading the disc did a good job of conveying exactly what Christopher Nolan wanted. Same way that the disc did a great job of showing what Christopher Nolan wanted. But you're not getting a super HDR, high brightness, you're not getting a big pop with the colors, and you're getting a muddy dialogue. So it's like the disc is fine. The disc is good. It's very faithful to the source, but the source and the stylistic choices by the director, you might have some issues with. So yeah, I mean, Warner Brothers did a good job with this disc with what they were able to do, and those issues you're going to have with it are much more on Christopher Nolan than they are on Warner Brothers, if that makes sense. So overall, I mean, I would recommend, you're probably going to buy this movie, right? If you're a collector, this is the biggest movie of 2020 by far. It's the only movie of any like real circumstance that came out in theaters, and you're probably going to buy it. So if you buy it and you have a 4K setup, buy the 4K disc. Those IMAX sequences are worth it alone in 4K. But just know that whether you buy 4K or Blu-ray, you know, the audio is not going to be fixed. It's just simply not going to be fixed. The only thing I honestly can suggest, and something that I may try in subsequent viewings of this, is to play with your receiver, if you have it, and go into the settings and actually make your center channel stronger and balance it out yourself. I think that's probably a crappy way to do it, and it's not going to be ideal, and you're going to miss out on some of the other great sound. But if you can bump up your center dialogue channel a little bit higher, you might make things out better. And honestly, some of you may want to watch it with captions on. About 10 minutes in, my wife asked me, can we put the captions on? I personally wanted to try it without captions, obviously for this review, but if I did watch it again, I would consider doing it just so you can make out more of what's happening. So overall, a pretty complex review, but you know you're probably going to buy it, and if you do, the 4K disc is definitely worth it. So I'll leave a link down in the description where you can pick this up. It is available next Tuesday. I'm making this video a few days before the release, so if you're watching this after the release, it will be currently available, and it's selling for about that $25 price point. But really nice disc by Warner Brothers, really interesting movie I need to watch again, and really just odd stylistic choices by Christopher Nolan make for a really interesting review here. So thanks for watching this. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. Check out all the other links down in my description for ways you can support the channel. But otherwise, like I said, thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Stay healthy. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day and enjoy the weekend. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.